I just started season 2 of Bridgerton, and this is the season based on Kate and Anthony. And, you know, she is really unbearable. Like she's acting the same way Anthony acted with Daphne in season 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden. So, pretty much in this storyline, um, Kate wants to find the perfect person for her sister, Edwina, which I do find it weird that, every time they introduce Kate, they're like Miss Shawarma. And every time they introduce Edwina, they're like Miss Edwina Shawarma. And I'm like, why don't you just say Miss Kate and Edwina Shawarma? Like, why you gotta, like, you don't even say her name type thing. Or maybe it's because it's proper to say Miss and say their last name. And then since there's both of them, but I could have sworn in the previous episode, like in the previous season, somebody was like Miss Bridgerton, like addressing both siblings or something. Or was it Miss Featherington? Miss Featherington? Miss Featherington? So I just found that it was interesting. But yeah, so, she's trying to find a match. And since her and her sister are half siblings, they have the same father, but not the, the same mother. Apparently, the mom left England a long time ago because, she fell in love with Kate's dad. And her parents were not okay with that because Kate's dad was, not wealthy. He had a low background. So ever since then, they were not communicating. So now Kate wants to find, you know, a husband for her sister, but Lady Danbury said she got in contact with the mom's parents, and the mom's parents wants her to marry an English person with noble background, right? But Kate is pushing for her to find love. But it's kind of hard for her to find love when Kate is like so overbearing. Everybody that the sister, everybody that comes to try and meet the sister, she's the one picking the person. And I'm like, how do you expect the sister to find love if you are over, if you're like, you know, if you're intruding so much, right? And there are certain things that she doesn't know about the neighborhood. You never lived there. Yes, you may have done your research, but Lady Danbury is the one who truly knows everyone. So she's better off making the matches, right, for Edwina. I mean, Kate, I get it, but also, if the story is supposed to be about Kate and Anthony, I really didn't. Obviously, I've seen this season before, but like, I don't like the way they're starting to make, like, why even get the sister involved in all this? Anthony says he wants somebody who pretty much has good hips to breed a child, who can utter a sentence, and pretty much like, who could be a good Viscountess. That's who he's looking for. He's not really looking for love. And Kate is like, oh, her sister want love, right? So she already said she doesn't want the sister to be involved with Bridgerton. So that's why I'm like, this whole, I feel like their story could have just been like the two of them fighting each other. Like, they didn't really need to involve the sister in their mess, because like, I get it, you're trying to create a love triangle, but why create a love triangle between sisters? Like, it's just weird, right? And there was no need to. And they're talking about, oh, Kate is an old maid when she's only 26. They didn't say how old Edwina is, but I can, like, what? She's in her teens or something? Because if Kate is 26, like, that's still young. But I guess in that time period, they're like, um, that that's too old to be married. But if Bridgerton, if Anthony is looking for someone solely for the purpose of, taking care of the house, then Kate is perfectly old enough to take care of his um, younger siblings and to take care of a wife, right? And then so far I'm like midway in episode 2, and Colin has made his way back, and now we are starting to really see how the Colin love story is beginning. Because, like I said, in season 1, I'm mostly rewatching the first 2 seasons so that I can look at the interaction between Penelope and Colin. And speaking of Penelope, so they kind of started showing you, since they revealed that, she's Lady Bridgerton at the end of season 1. They're showing you more about how she's getting to get the printer done. And she's been using a new printer. So now that Eloise is more trying to find out the identity of Lady Whistletown, um, it's very tricky for her to try and leave the parties because now Eloise is out and out to society. So it's kind of hard for, you know, Penelope to do what she normally did before. I don't know if I've said this already, but like continuing watching, episode 2, Kate is really annoying. Like, I'm like, let the girl fall in love on her own, right? It's almost like she had that small feeling that she's attracted to Anthony, and she just doesn't want the sister to have him. But I'm like, if that's the case, just be honest and tell your sister, what's going on. And, when Lady Danbury was talking to her, she's like, oh, I'm perfectly content with um, not being in a relationship. And I'm like, okay, but, you know, you're only 26, Like, like, yes, your sister needs a match, but you can also try to find a match for yourself too, you know? And I don't know, the whole interaction, like I said, is really annoying. Um, and so far, you know, last episode, last season, episode 8, that's when they started showing the bees. Because remember, that's how their father passed away. He was stung by a bee. And then you noticed it again, the bee, in episode 1 of season 2. And then episode 3 is when they're going to show you It's called A Bee in Your Bonnet. So I think that's where they show you what happened to the father. And so now let's move on to um, Colin and Penelope. That whole conversation at Lady Danbury's house, I'm like, dude, he's like, yeah, I was talking to someone that I've known for a long time, but blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, he was talking about himself. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, oh, Pen, you don't count. Oh, you don't count because you're Pen. And I'm like, because she was like, I'm a woman. And he's like, he's sworn off women. And I'm like, how are you going to tell her she doesn't count? Yet you enjoyed talking to her, this whole while you were on your trip. I mean, they were like, oh, it's been 10 months since last season. That means he's been traveling for 10 months, right? And he's like, oh, if Penelope can see me this way, then I should start seeing myself this way. And then you go tell the girl she doesn't count. And this really was the first interaction, like full on interaction between the two of them. Because the very first time was when he came, and then during the races, he saw her briefly. But this was the first time that they actually had like a full on conversation. And this man just crushed this girl, like her, crushed her whole emotions, saying like, "Oh, he's sworn off with women and that she doesn't count." I'm like, this is why I'm saying like for season three, he needs to beg. Okay, he needs to beg for forgiveness because he just hurts her like obviously it's like okay if he wants to be like oblivious that he doesn't know that she has feelings for him, but he should because regardless of friendship she wouldn't keep responding back to him like that unless she liked him. So he's just being, he's just being like oblivious to her feelings. He's just being like maybe she would never like me like that. So next season, I'm like, sir, you better be begging, okay? Episode three showed you a little bit, it started showing you a little bit of Anthony's past, or should I say the entire Bridgerton past, right? Because it started showing you his father showing him how to, shoot and then just dying in front of him, right, from a bee sting. So when you look at that story, how he was just forced to become the Viscount, and then after that, had to make the decision. Everything became on him now, and he had to make the decision to well, the decision regarding his mother, right? He was like, oh, he's asking you to choose between letting your mom live or letting the baby live, if anything were to happen, right? So, I mean, all that just pushed on him when he wasn't even like prepared for it. You can kind of see why his behavior was the way it is in season one. Because if they're saying like this is 10 years ago, then that means last season it was 9 years ago. So it was still fresh, right? And it's still fresh right now, all of his responsibilities that he has to take. And this also, the fact that they showed a past in season one and they showed a past in season two, because the past in season one was about Simon and how his relationship with his father, right? And then here they showed you season two, they're showing you the relationship that, you know, um, that Anthony had with his father and how he has to take over things. So it begs the question, are they going to show a past as well in season 3, you know? And if they were, whose past are they going to show? Are they going to show you Penelope's past, or are they going to show you are they going to show you Colin's past, right? So just to keep with the continuity of the seasons. So we shall see and pay attention to that point. Then in this, in this season, in this episode, you got to see the Shawarmas go to the other Bridgerton house, right? And when you're looking at it, all of the siblings, all of the Bridgerton siblings, well, except for the younger two because they didn't take part of the game, but they're very competitive and they're very active. They always they're always competing, they're always playing, they're always doing things, right? Which is normal in a big family. But when you look at Edwina's personality, she's more quiet, she's more reserved. And then Kate's personality, she is competitive as well. So in that sense, you know, he in that sense, she's more fitting for Anthony and she's more fitting for the family because she caught on to the game very quickly and she was winning and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Edwina wasn't getting the hang of the game as well, which is perfectly normal. But when you take a look at, how they are together, also, Anthony's more like there's a way he acts with Edwina and there's a way he acts with Kate. It's totally different. And it's not just because she was being such a pain in the first two episodes. There's a different way he's reacting with her versus the younger sister. That's why when Daphne first met the Sharmas, she thought that Kate was Edwina because Edwina because of how Simon, I mean, no, not Simon, because of how Anthony was interacting with her, right? So like you would think if the person that is supposed to be your betrothed or the person you're interested in, it technically should be the first person that you talk to. But no, you went to talk to the sister. And that's why, Daphne was suspecting that he's more in love with, that he, since this is only episode 3, I'm not going to say in love. I'm going to say that he's leaning more towards um, Kate. And with the whole banter that they have, going, you can kind of see that he's leaning more towards her, right? And and Kate already is taken in by his sisters. You have, you know, um, Eloise, who kind of shares similar views with her, and then you have, um, and then you have what you call it, and then you have um, Daphne, who already interacted and kind of likes Kate already. So, even not taking, even taking in their age, it would be better for Kate to be the Viscountess anyway, because it seems like um, Eloise or Francesca would be the same age as Edwina. And that's kind of like, okay, now you want her to take charge of these girls. And I don't know. It's a little weird. So that was my take on that part. Also, in this episode, I'm assuming that gave to um what Colin gave to, what's his name? Benedict, was a form of weed because he was like, just take this, just take a little bit. And then, when I took it last, I found myself meditating on da 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 da. And then, what's his name? He went and took a lot of it, the rest of the pouch. And Colin's face was like, oh my gosh, what did you just do? So now this is like midway through episode 2, right? So you already know he's going to go crazy the rest of this episode. And then when it comes to the Featheringtons, I know that a long time ago it was allowed, but it's so weird that in the period pieces they always have this where the cousin is interested in another cousin, and it's like, ugh. Because especially in the K dramas, they always make it that the like in the period pieces, like some of them, the love triangle is with the cousin. You know, it happened in Mr. Queen, it happened in The King's Affection, and I'm like, huh? So you have Lady Featherington, Portia, trying to hook up Prudence with the new Lord Featherington because she doesn't want, the Lord Featherington to be with Cressida. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, go, how about you go find her a different husband, or like one who has more money or something. I don't know. But I don't know. It's just weird. But then again, Lord Featherington, the new Lord Featherington, is pretty much in charge of everything in their house. So it's not like she has much say. So I guess. I feel like in this season, they didn't really need to make Anthony, propose to Edwina and or even get up to the wedding, right? Because they made his story and Kate like, get there already, the tension between them, you know? Um and I feel like it was so bad on Edwina's side, right? The only reason he proposed to Edwina was because Daphne was like, "Oh, like you could feel the love between him and Kate," and she pointed that out. And then he was like, "Okay, then I know what I must do." So then he went to propose to Edwina because he doesn't want to have, a love he doesn't want to have a love match and be with someone he wants to marry. I mean, and marry someone he loves because, earlier in the season, he told his mom after the father's death, she was not there for them, right? She was barely hanging on. So he's like, he wouldn't want to put anybody through that if he were to die. But I'm like, yeah, maybe in your head you wouldn't want to put yourself through that, but Edwina loves you. So regardless, you're going to be putting her through that, right? I mean, you may not put yourself through that if anything were to happen to Edwina, like he would move on, right? So I think in that concept, when he said that to his mom, he wouldn't want to put himself through that. So marrying Edwina is not going to stop the emotions from her part, right? And to me, it's like, which I understand it because Edwina's young, that she didn't see, that she didn't pick up on the feelings that her sister has for Anthony, because even when they were dancing, right? She's trying to put them together so that they could start liking each other so that he could have proposed, right? But every time she sent Kate out there, it only made them fall more in love with each other. Kate and Anthony like the same things. They like horseback riding. She doesn't like riding a horse. When he brought her the horse, she was like, I prefer animals that can curl up on my lap, right? Kate and Anthony likes riding horses. They like playing that game, right? And they like shooting. So they're more compatible with each other. And just like Daphne said, like, Edwina is perfect. Like she would make the perfect wife, but not the perfect wife for Anthony in terms of like a love match, right? So yeah. So, I mean, she didn't notice it. And I feel like they should have just made her notice the looks that they were giving each other at the party versus on her wedding day. I mean, that's traumatic to notice how your sister and your future husband, right, are looking at each other on your wedding day. It should have never went all the way to the wedding day, you know? I don't know. It's just it was too much. And Daphne pretty much had a big role here. It was kind of like the reverse, right? Because she's the one who caught um Anthony and Kate in the room. Technically, they were unchaperoned and they should marry each other based on what happened in season 1, right? And that's exactly what she told him. Like you were telling me to marry Simon last time, so technically you should be marrying her, being in the room like that. And that's the same thing that happened with Portia setting up Prudence to marry Lord Featherington, because she put them in the room by themselves and then she got a bunch of people to come look at them and see them together, right? And then now all of a sudden they have to get married because they were together unchaperoned in a room. So 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 4 episodes left in the season. I'm about to start watching episode 5. So episode 4 ended with Anthony proposing to Edwina. And I'm like, Daphne picked up on it. Even Lady Danbury picks up on whatever's going on between Kate and um between Kate and Anthony. And this their story is the reason why I say like season even though season one, the whole I don't want a child, I don't want this, da, 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 it was dragged out till the very end, but it was still a better love story than this one because it was just unnecessary to bring the girl all the way to the altar just for her to see that her future husband is in love with her sister. And even before that, the sister told her about the stories, right? She was like, because she's gonna be like, oh, you told me how a girl's supposed to look at a guy in the stories, and you just now realize it. I don't know. It's just weird. While I understand Penelope's reasons for keeping Lady Whistledown money to herself while her family's struggling, but it's rather interesting, you know, that she would let her family struggle and let go of all the maids and all this. Now, granted, she doesn't know that the new Lord Featherington is broke, right? Before because her mom just found out at the end of episode 4, right? So during the time frame that I'm talking about right now, she doesn't know that he's broke. But I'm talking about like before, after her father died and they had to like give all this money away. It's interesting that you know, she let all this happen when she has a lot of money hidden in the house. So it's interesting to see. And then one thing I wanted to note of Anthony, right? When him and Kate were dancing, he got so mad that he when he found out that she was leaving right after the sister got married to him. So like what? Did you want Kate to stay around while you're married to her sister? So like every time y'all have a party, you can sneak looks at Kate while being married to her sister? Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like you're mad that she's leaving. If you're that mad that she's leaving, then why don't you just marry her then? Why didn't you just propose to her? And I'm pretty sure if he had just proposed to her, like nothing else would have happened, right? And Edwina could have still gotten a match this season too. Like both of them could have been married by the end of this season had they just wrote the story differently. But no, Kate had the opportunity to pretty much tell her sister that she's in love with the Viscount. It, like you should have told her when the whole thing with her grandparents broke out, right? Like that was the perfect opportunity to come clean and for have her and to have her reject, his proposal because his mom was like, obviously Anthony's mom was like, okay, I get it that you don't want to dishonor her and break off your promise to her, but she could do it and no one would even bat an eyelash that she broke off the engagement, right? So like with the whole thing that came out with her grandparents that Kate was writing to them and she had to marry someone of wealth in order for her to get um in order for Edwina to get, money from them. Like that should have been the part where she came clean and been like, yeah, well, guess what? I think I like him too, you know, and he likes me too because he literally just told her that right before he left the house. Like, he said, do you want me to marry your sister, but all the while wanting you, right? Like, what kind of relationship is that? And because your sister says she loves him, you're going to let her marry some guy who doesn't even love her? Some guy who just admitted that he will be thinking of you every time? Like, I don't know. It's crazy to me. This storyline, this I didn't read the book. I didn't read Anthony's story yet, but I would imagine that that's not the way, their story developed. I would hope not, because I'm like, what the hell is this shit? You know? Like, why you gotta drag it on this much? It's the end of episode. It's close to the end of episode 5, and they go all the way to the wedding, and that's when she finally realizes that, um, you know, they love each other. And if Anthony says, I'm a gentleman one more time, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw my remote at the TV, because you are not a gentleman, sir. Even in the beginning of the season, he was paying women to have sex with him. And then all of a sudden, and last season, and all of a sudden, you are a gentleman? Please, please. Both of them, Kate and Anthony, they're both cowards in this whole thing, because both of them were going to let this whole charade go and like be married if her sister did not finally see the look between the two of them. Like, no. Gentlemen, my butt, okay? Cowards is what both of them are. And this is what I was talking about. Like, they really did Edwina really dirty this season, right? Like, both of them had, like, she could have found another match if he didn't, take up with her. And like, we've come to the wedding episode, and this is where, she finally realizes, the look between the two of them. Edwina finally realizes the look between Kate and Anthony. And, you know, all this could have happened way before. It did not have to happen in the wedding, right? Because now the queen is angry because they've made a fool of her, and truly Edwina is hurting. And Kate and Anthony just continue to lie about their feelings, and I'm like, she did not deserve that. Like, they really did her wrong. Because even till when Anthony comes to talk to her, like when she's asking him, you know, what kind of life will my sister be around and stuff like that. Like, in no way in his conversation did he actually say he loved her. And she is looking for a love match, but Anthony is just looking for, oh, I'm the Viscount and you're the Diamond, so that's the only way, we mesh and blah blah blah. And I'm like, just leave the girl alone. Like, she actually wants to live a life with the person she loves, right? Not live in the life with someone who's gonna be thinking about her sister the whole time, right? He's like, oh, this too shall pass, because when she's far away, she won't be a problem for us. I'm like, So that's why I'm like, I really did not care much for for Kate and Anthony's love story here because first of all, you're dragging it on so much with the triangle that it's truly unnecessary for this triangle to continue so far, right? And then you have the whole queen who is pissed off about the whole thing and she's trying to catch whoever Lady Whistletown is, right? So she even set up fake news to be spread um throughout the wedding to try and catch who Lady Whistletown is. And the whole thing with Penelope and Eloise right now, I'm like, why are you so invested? While I understand that, you know, Eloise has taken a liking to the boy who works at the print shop that she's using, but it has nothing to do with you. Eloise just told her like it's more of a friendship and she's trying to know if the boy likes her or not. So like it has nothing to do with you or who Lady Whistletown is. So like just leave them alone. Like I don't get it. Like she's just trying to get into the other one's business. While I understand like okay, she's like, you know, if you get with a class that's below your own, obviously it would bring Eloise down because if it's the same as the Korean period pieces, because with those, it whatever whoever your husband is, you take their class, right? So if a woman marries lower, then she would now be in the class of her husband, right? So she would go down in class. So I'm assuming that it would be the same thing here, that if Eloise and Theo were to get together and to get married, she would go down in class. Obviously, Anthony would never allow that to happen. So regardless of how they would even figure that out, whether he would be like, oh, you can't marry Theo, and oh, you know, whatever it would be, but it's nothing to concern right now. So again, Penelope's making way too much of a big deal when it's just the beginning stages, and that's why she's so close to being found out. And I feel like there's something in Penelope that when she doesn't quite get her way, she blows people's um information up. And that's the same thing that happened, you know, with Marina when she told the whole world what was going on with Marina because of everything that that was happening with Colin. And, you know, so in season 1 she blows up Marina's secret. In season 2 she blows up um Eloise's secret. So it's like in season 3, whose secret are you going to blow up then? Right? Your own secret? I feel like that would be the best time to reveal that, you're Lady Whistletown. Especially in the book, Colin was the one who was like, reveal it. But also, it might not happen because they've already changed the part in the book. The first person to learn that she was Lady Whistletown in the books, well, in her book, I've only read her book and then half of The Duke and I. So it was Colin was the first person to learn of her secret. And then here it's Eloise who's the first person to learn. Eloise in the books were the she was the last person to learn of her secret. So I wonder, are they, if everybody's talking about the carriage scene happened after Colin found out her secret. So I'm assuming Colin is going to find out. I mean, if they get together, he has to find out regardless, because that would be a really bad thing to do if you're marrying somebody and you're still withholding this big secret from them, right? So we'll see whose secret she will be revealing in season 3. And this is what I mean by this, like their love story is really annoying, because it's the end of, it's 13 minutes left of episode 7, right? And this is supposed to be the love story of Kate and Anthony, right? This whole episode is mostly of, you know, Edwina being mad at Kate, and Kate and Anthony is still not together. And the part about Edwina being mad at Kate, it's rightfully so, because of the way they wrote it. You know, if you love the man, you should have told her a long time ago. And I'm not gonna repeat what I said already, but Edwina has a right to be mad at them. And Anthony was like, "Oh, I've never seen her this way." Well, yeah, because she was acting all gentle until you came in, you know, mess with her heart, and now she's like pissed off, which she has every right to be. So, but my whole point is that they're dragging this on, but I think it's also because they know that if both actors are gonna be in season 3, then they could expand more a little bit on their love. Um, you know, which this one it's different. Whereas Simon and Daphne, like Daphne was mostly here, right? But it, but the fact that the actor for Simon didn't want to do it anymore, they didn't really make them be here. So their love story kind of ended after season 1. But here, even after the 8th episode of season 2, they're going to continue, the love story, giving them a little bit of time in season 3. But still, I just hope that with um Pollen, they don't drag it on like this, especially since you want us to watch part 1 and then a month later watch part 2, you know? So it's like, um, so it's like, get on with the story, right? Um, and the way Edwina is hurt, you can't really tell her to like move on, especially since her sister's been, lying to her this whole time, because she was like, this is not what I wanted. Even the push to get married, it was Kate's idea for her to get married so that they can have money, right? Because their financials weren't that good. So if you wanted to get married, why didn't you just go look for a match yourself? Yeah, I get it. She's old. In society's eyes, they say that she's old, but she had plenty of opportunity to get a match for herself, which is what Lady Danbury told her in the beginning, right? Um, so now let's move to Lady Whistletown, right? So it was actually the Modiste who told her if you say something about if you say something about what's her name, Eloise, that she would never say herself, then the queen is not going to, the queen is not going to say that you're the one, that she's actually Lady Whistletown, right? I mean, at first she didn't want to, and when she did, she was crying about it. I mean, I guess she felt bad, but in reality, she didn't really have to put anything in there. Or she could have put it in a way that didn't ruin Eloise's, you know, that didn't ruin Eloise or ruin her family. Because now it's like, girl, you you already know she wasn't supposed to be there, so why are you even like detailing this her whole thing? So I don't know. And trying to get back together, the two of them, after this, and even when Colin was like, I know there's no secret between you guys. So like when Colin hears that she's Lady Whistletown and what she posted about it, his sister and all that stuff, I mean, obviously he has to call her out on it. She posted about Marina, she posted about his sister. Like, you know, yes, I want him to grovel before they get together, but I also want him to call her out on her BS too, you know. I think the main question for me, um, for the beginning of episode 8 is, well, the end of episode 7 is like, what was the point of having her fall, right? What was the point of having her have that accident? But I guess it was to bring the two sisters together, back together, because that was the only point for it, right? Other than Anthony, who was like, "Oh, the reason why I didn't want to visit you is because um I was scared of losing you." Like, whether you visited her or not, if it was her fate to pass away, it would have happened regardless, right? So you just missed an opportunity there, right? But yeah, so the point of her falling and hitting her head was just, for the two sisters to mend their differences, really. So they started, being friends again, and so on. And Edwina was encouraging her to be, to secure life and whatever. I feel like with the way, I mean, this season was definitely not like first season where, like, they got married ahead of time and were having sex all the time. And I think the reason they did it like that for last season is to, you know, is to drag Simon's story as the fact that, they don't want to have children. And I think here they dragged on the fact that this love triangle that, you know, and at the end, the queen, she's still mesmerized by Edwina because she was like, I called you the diamond. It's not just because of beauty, but your personality. And Edwina was able to get, King George to um to calm down when he came when he came in the room the day of the wedding, right? So uh so at the Featherington party, the queen was able to soften, the fact that Anthony and Kate were getting together. And then she even told her, like, hey, I have a nephew, he's available, which her nephew is the prince from, the first season. So I wonder if they're going to show that relationship a little bit in season 3, or if Edwina is no longer part of Bridgerton, or are they just going to mention it in name, right? In passing or in conversation, to say that she's now married to the prince, right? So we'll see where they get to that next season. And speaking of the Featherington ball, a lot happened in there. So Colin was able to, you know, point out to Penelope that the new Lord Featherington is a fake, and that all of this money that he has, you know, it's everything is fake. So Portia took it upon herself to just put the blame on Lord Featherington, even though she was the one pushing for him to scam everyone, right? So now she's sending him on a trip back to America, and she's keeping some of the money so that she can take care of her daughters, right? And it's funny to me because in this, they only put 3 daughters, right? But in the book, there was 4 daughters. So with with Penelope and Eloise no longer talking, in the book, it was Hyacinth and Felicity who were best friends, right? Um, the book Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. And, Felicity and Hyacinth played a big role in that book. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're not going to include that. And I wonder too why they eliminated Felicity altogether, because they didn't get rid of any one of the Bridgertons. So why would you take out a whole character while you're adding a bunch of other characters, right? And then also at the party, Eloise found out that Penelope is, you know, Lady Whistletown, and they got into this huge argument. I mean, each lady kind of have their points, but um, altogether, Penelope was kind of in the wrong. But it's the way that she feels self-righteous about it, though. Like, you put the girl's business out there. I feel like I said before, there could have been a different way she said it without totally ruining her friend. And I think that's the main problem that, you know, Eloise has with it. And it's shocking to me that it took Eloise this long to even figure out that Penelope was, um, you know, was Lady Whistletown, because mm, she slipped up so many times. Like, I'm like, and the way she was found out in the book is the same way she's messing up. She's slipping up, because the conversations that she has with some people, she's using the same terms in the Lady Whistletown. So I'm like, I'm very surprised that no one else picked up on it, right? So that happened, and then when Colin came to help her, talk about Lord Featherington, she thought that they were getting a step closer or whatever, until she ran after Eloise after they had their fight, and she heard Colin talking to the other guys and saying that he would never court her. Even though, like 30 minutes prior, Colin was like, "Oh, I'll do anything for you. You're a special person to me." And she was like, "Yeah, you're a special person to me too." Right after they were dancing, and that's why she was happy before she went to go meet Eloise. But then this man is like, "Oh, I would never court her." But to Colin's defense, that can mean a lot of things, right? Because he's a guy in the middle of other guys. Obviously, they're going to, you know, be a guy. And then he's just saying like, "Oh, I'll never court her, blah blah blah," just to be one of the guys. But in reality, it could mean a lot of things. So there's that. And this is the big moment that's going to happen in, season 3, and that's the first preview that they gave us, is to show when she confronts him about what he said, right? She's like, "I heard what you said at my mama's ball last weekend. I never thought you could be so cruel." So we're going to hear, you know, in season 3 what his reasoning is going to be for her, you know? And then, yeah, so the main couple of the season didn't really get together until the very end, right? And I'm like, I'm like, they better not do that to us. They better not do that to us um in season 3. But I have noticed that from with season 1 and season 2, the episode the episode where where it's the title of the book is the episode where they get together. So with season 1, I the episode that was the Duke and I, that was episode 5, and that's when they got together, right? And then with season 2, the name of the book, which was The Viscount Who Loved Me, was episode 8. So they didn't get together until episode 8. And based on what they've put on social media with the teasers and whatnot, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is episodes 1 through 4. Part 2 is episodes, 5 to 8. And the title, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, was episode 6. So I'm guessing that's when they're going to get together. So we'll have to wait until June for them to get together. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless, waiting for, the premiere of part 1. But I will say, they should have done it if they wanted to grab people's attention, if they wanted to keep your attention, get more views. They should have done it instead of 2 parts. Do it just like all the K dramas are doing, right? All the K dramas, they let you see 2 episodes a week, right? Which is still the same amount of time that they're making us wait in between, right? But you could have just done 2 episodes the first week, and then 2 episodes, and then 2 episodes, and then 2 episodes. That's a whole month. At least you would keep everyone watching every week, right? The same way as, Queen of Tears did, Dr. Slump, Captivating the King. All of those were Netflix, and they were two a week, available, I should say, quote, available on Netflix. So they should have done the same thing. And I feel like people would have been more happy if it was like that versus this whole, I gotta wait a month.
And this wraps up our
You know?
journey on the Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on the Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.